Hi, I'm Spitfire from Road Guardians and Accident Scene Management. We're going to be talking to you today about some of the helmets that you might encounter if you were at the scene of a motorcycle crash and how those helmets relate. I've got Kent Kapler here with Road Guardians, and Kent also is a student. He graduated from a crash course for the motorcyclists. So, Kent, can you tell us a little bit about these helmets?
The first helmet I want to talk to you about is the half helmet. You do see these quite a bit, especially in warmer regions. It's not a full face, it's half helmet. This is kind of popular. The next helmet is an ancient one that we got out of a museum. It's a 3/4 helmet. You don't see too many of these anymore. It does have a cupped chin strap to provide protection for the chin. But again, this type of helmet is not something that's very popular. And then you move into the full face helmets.
And the full face helmets are really the ones that we're concerned about. If somebody were to be at the scene of a crash and were wearing a full face helmet that interfered with your ability to control the airway, that's when we need to talk to you about this particular kind of helmet. We're talking about one that has a rigid chin bar on it. And this particular helmet has a visor on it that could prevent you from being able to see what's going on with this person as well. It's also got kind of a different way of lifting that visor.
Right.
And Kent, you want to show us how to...
On this older style, there's actually a notch here that you go in and you lift the visor with the notch. Versus the newer one, it actually has a tab on this side that you can come in to lift up the visor.
So that makes it a little easier to see where it is you're going. Some of them have locking mechanisms, so if you can't get the visor to raise up, you may have to look for that locking mechanism. If a person is wearing glasses inside of the helmet, you'd have to take the glasses off. Some of the helmets also have a sunglass visor that comes down and gives them that sunglass effect without putting sunglasses on. However, that doesn't get in the way of you being able to remove the helmet. There is a difference in some of the chin retention systems, and the majority of them are a D-ring style. They had some quick release for a little while, like a little buckle, but they weren't comfortable for the wearers. So they pretty much, even on the high-end helmets, have stayed with the D-ring. When you see this little red tab, what Kent's doing is he's pulling on that tab, and that is loosening up this chin strap. A lot of times when it's hot out, people are sweating, this can get pulled pretty tight. And if you see this red tab, you'll now know what it's for, and it makes it much easier to undo the chin strap. However, if a person's in a crash, even if this is a $300 helmet, you still should not hesitate to use a trauma shear to cut the strap.
Yeah, most likely the helmets are made for one use only. Once you have an accident or an impact, you're going to want to replace that helmet anyways. So cutting this chin strap, you're not going to do any more damage to the helmet because it should be replaced.
Yeah, and there are other things that the manufacturers have been doing to make this a little easier to remove in an emergency. For instance, you have some of this padding that in this helmet you unsnap. Some of them have Velcro. Some of them have a tab that you pull on the tab and it pulls the chin or the cheek pads out. So those are also made for convenience because people get all sweaty and dirty and smelly and stuff inside of these helmets. So they're also meant for laundry purposes.
You want to wash them out periodically.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, but it does benefit if you're trying to get this removed. Another thing I wanted to show you while we've got this helmet in this position is that in the back of the helmet, you'll sometimes see a little difference back here. This is very hard. It's hard foam, and it's meant to protect a little bit from wind that blows up inside of the helmet. But you'll see that this one is a lot softer, and you'd be able to use your trauma shears to cut if you were going to be trying to remove this helmet. And it makes it easier to get the helmet off the person's head. I talked before when I was doing helmet removal about how you use the straps to compress the foam, and you can see here that this compresses the foam to the sides, making it easier to get past a person's ears. Now, this helmet also is considered a modular helmet. And modular means that it looks like a full-faced helmet, but it doesn't have a rigid chin bar. In other words, when you lift up on this red part right here, you can lift this helmet all the way up. And this essentially creates a 3/4 helmet, the old style helmet, making it easier to get the helmet on and off. People also put a lot of things inside of their helmets, microphones, other things that should be considered as you need to remove this. Now, once it's a 3/4 helmet, you may not need to remove this helmet any longer. The preference is always that you leave the helmet on unless it interferes with your ability to control the airway. That can mean a lot of things. If the person is throwing up, if the person has problems with their secretions, then you need to, lifting this chin bar might be all the access you need for them to be able to handle the situation. But if they still aren't breathing, you might have to remove the helmet. For instance, it's hard to get your fingers in here to lift the person's jaw because it's nice and tight. It's meant to protect the jaw. That's why it comes around like this. And it makes it really hard to get in here and lift. So if it still interferes, then you would still need to consider removing this helmet. The other ones, like that half helmet, now when you look at that, you can see that there is no interference whatsoever. Leave the helmet on. There's no reason to take this helmet off. You have access to help them with their breathing, to doing whatever. This one is much more protective of the person, obviously. But Ken, can you show people what we mean about pivot? Because I talked a little bit about pivot.
Right.
You can show it on top of that helmet just because it's easier.
If you have to roll a helmet or a head, you want to make sure that the bottom is in the same place as the helmet is being rolled. This way, you're not realigning the spine. You're just tilting the head from a sideways position to an up position. The other problem you would have is if you tried just rolling it and you went like this, obviously now the body and the head is out of alignment.
Yeah, the neck is still here. You'd be yanking on that person's neck, and that can't be good.
No.
No, that can't be a good thing.
If it'd even be possible, but
Yeah.
yeah. So when you do a roll, again, you just want to make sure that the contact point to the ground never really moves from the helmet.
And as you mentioned that, and we talk about that rotation, I'm going to grab this helmet again and talk about things that stick out from our helmets, like this one right here. When you go to rotate this helmet, it's possible that you're going to feel that visor, or what do you call that thing? The ridge, yeah. You're going to feel that as you move this helmet, and you don't know right now, is this the neck? Do we have some problems with the bones in the neck? But it's not moving easily, and you're feeling something. You don't know whether it's the helmet, whether it is bones in the neck, and so if you ever feel any kind of resistance, you would stop and you would take the helmet off in this position. You would never try to push past that point of resistance, because if it is bones in the neck, then you could have quite a problem going on. I'd like to thank you for joining us today. We gave you a little information, but that certainly does not take the place of a full bystander assistance class. You can get more information at roadguardians.org.